here it is. We're being told that one way or another, we're all part of the Fishead. Well, even if we accept that, I mean, what is there to do? It's so big, there's nothing we can do. And if we're all going down, we might as well take a few pleasures along the way. Or can we maybe turn it around? Is there hope? Maybe. And maybe the hope is the same as the reason that we're in this mess together. Because we are in it together. Nicholas Christakis and James Fowler are not the only people to research humans and their behavior, but their work shows some surprising facts about how much we're influenced by people around us, and more importantly, how we influence people around us, even complete strangers.
Or what I think is somewhat novel about the work that we've done is not that we've shown that people are affected by those around them. Because this is common sense, right? We know this. We know that human beings are affected by others. But what we've been able to show, I think, is that we're affected not just by people who are 1 degree removed from us, but also by people who are 2 and even 3 degrees removed from us.
Not only is it the case that our friends seem to affect us, but our friends' friends also seem to affect us. In fact, this spreads to our friends' friends' friends at 3 degrees of separation.
The point is that it's not just 1 degree, it's more than 1 degree. The point is that we don't just affect those around us, but we affect other people who are strangers to us. And that we are not just affected by those around us, but affected by other people who are strangers to us.
And we find that this is true for obesity, for smoking, for happiness, for loneliness, for drinking behavior, for depression. Everywhere we look, we find this 3 degrees of separation. You tend to affect your friends' friends' friends and no further. And your friends' friends' friends tend to affect you and no further.
The human beings are assembled into these elaborate, complex, branching, lightning-like structures, where I'm connected to you and you to others and those others each to others, and you get this incredibly baroque, intricate, beautiful pattern of human social networks. And most people, when they hear social networks nowadays, they think about the online variety, which is a very recent phenomenon. You know, the last 5 or 10 years, we've been assembling ourselves into these online networks. But in reality, human beings have been assembling themselves into social networks for hundreds of thousands of years.
Even though the results of their study have been verified, there are still those who remain unconvinced.
Especially in countries like the United States, where individualism is so strong, I think a lot of people think that they're the captain of their own ship, that they're making these decisions independently. And I think what our research really shows is that we don't make these decisions in isolation. We do make the decisions, but we're strongly influenced by the people that we're surrounded by. And it doesn't end there. It's not like our friends are operating under some different physical rules. They operate under the same rules that we are, and they're connected to people that we're not. And so it makes sense that we would all be connected in this way. You know, it's like a herd of buffalo. If you're in the middle of that herd of buffalo and the buffaloes on the edge start turning to the left, that's eventually going to reach its way to you, and you're going to be turning to the left with the rest of the herd as well.
A lot of people looking at the work that James and I have been publishing over the last few years have said that in some sense, our work delivers a whack to free will. That what our work shows is that people are not as incapable of independent decision-making as they thought. In fact, even things so deeply personal as your emotional state, or who you vote for, or what your body size is, would appear to be influenced to a significant extent by those around you, even people you don't know. And that in some sense, therefore, we're not capable of as much free will as we thought. And that we are not as free to make choices as we thought, that we are influenced by others. And that's true. But it's also true that our work actually supports the importance and lifts up free will.
I believe that behavior is changed by having a social norm which says, this is the way we behave. This is the way it's acceptable. This is the way it's appropriate to behave.
One of the fundamentally interesting things about human social networks is that networks tend to magnify whatever they are seeded with. So they will magnify germs, they will magnify fascism, they will magnify smoking, drug use.
20 years ago, if I was in a room with 10 people smoking and I was the guest of honor, I would have to leave the room when my eyes teared up. And when I wiped the tears away, I came back and I said, okay, now we can go on with the meeting. The social norm was smoking is okay. Now, if one person lights up, that person has to leave the room. Or now, in many, certainly in America, and certainly in West Coast, nobody lights up in public. So social norms are critical. So how do we change the norm away from me first to us first? So by promoting the notion of ordinary heroes, everyday heroes, we give the world a new social norm to say, your task in the world is not to seek power for yourself, it's to seek power for other people.
What our generosity study shows is that if the good things that we do tend to ripple out so that the people around us copy those good things and that people around them copy those good things, it's also possible that some of those paths loop back to us.
If you're exposed to people who treat you kindly and cooperate with you, then when the bell rings and you interact with new people who are strangers to you, you treat them kindly. And then when the bell rings and those people interact with still other new people, they treat those people kindly. So the way I am treated now ripples through the network and can affect complete strangers.
So I absolutely believe that when you learn that you influence not just your friends, but your friends' friends and your friends' friends' friends, that it changes the way you see the world. When we looked at how happiness spread from person to person to person, and when we saw that it spread 3 degrees of separation, I started making a concerted effort to change my mood when I walked down the street and came home.
James gives the example, which I agree with, that on your way home from work, if you make the effort to regulate your mood to the extent that you can.
I would put on my favorite song, even if I was in kind of a bad mood, to try and just give myself a temporary boost so that when I walked in the door, that I could make myself happier and therefore make my family happier and everyone in their lives happier.
If you see that, Betty is kind to Jane and Jane is kind to Sue and Sue is kind to Robert, you can see the signature of Betty's kindness to Jane in Sue's behavior with Robert, even though Sue and Robert never interacted with Betty.
Well, this is all very nice, but, how do we know that doing something for others is worth the effort?